Yesterday, Sarah started mentioning this vicikiccha, skeptical doubt or uncertainty, which is an obstacle to the resolution of good and bad, or definition of the states, dhamma, kusala and akusala, namely dhamma, vavutthana. And the story was not complete yet. It was just the beginning. So he would like to continue this today. This skeptical doubt, uncertainty, vicikiccha is dangerous, it is tricky. And that's why Sarah pointed out its disadvantages. The worst is that this vicikiccha can arise in the guise of one's reason or wisdom. It can trick oneself to think that this is wisdom. And that's why for some people, intelligent people, they can quickly understand if somebody else is cheating them, lying them, or tricking them, or playing tricks on them. However, when one is playing trick on oneself, or one is cheating oneself, then one may not be aware of this. Even as one is aware of this, one will think very lightly of this kind of vicikiccha, skeptical doubt. Because one loves oneself, so one tends to hide this kind of defect, shortcoming. And one may even hide this shortcoming for the whole of one's life. Therefore, vicikiccha is said to arise in the guise of reason or wisdom. It can trick you into believing that what you are trying to exercise, some faculty of reason between two sides of a story, you may become ambiguous and be overwhelmed by vicikiccha, which can be, with the aid of delusion, which can arise in the guise of reason or wisdom. So, if one is overcome this vicikiccha, one is uncertain or skeptical doubt, one is cheated or tricked in this way, one will not be able to walk a path of truth and benefit. Then, what will happen? One's conduct, one will not be able to conduct oneself in the right way, in such a way that one's physical, verbal, mental behaviors will become blameworthy, impure, uncultured, gross and despicable. Therefore, this vicikiccha, skeptical doubt, which can be in the guise of reason or wisdom, is very dangerous, very tricky. It is a trickster. So, this is very dangerous. That's why Chara is emphasizing on this point. Now, the pairs of niyana and avarana, that is, the pair of cause and obstacle, can be finished or completed within one day. But this pair is very important. That's why Chara is taking more time to elaborate on this subject, so that yogis can understand very well. Sometimes there are some people who are doubtful, uncertain, or they are half belief or half faith, half-hearted in their faith. So they can see the disadvantage of this vicikiccha, hence this subject. This vicikiccha, skeptical doubt or uncertainty, rarely happens in those who lack sutta or knowledge, general knowledge. In most cases, because they put complete reliance on their teachers, and they would stick scrupulously to the instructions or guidance of the teachers, and they can practice smoothly. However, of course, such people need teachers, otherwise they will not be able to undertake their practice. Those who have much knowledge, especially general knowledge, especially the book knowledge, who are well versed in the theories or the theoretical aspect of these things, they will be able to practice, especially this practice of behaviors to conduct themselves. And also those people who are scientifically well versed people, if they understand the correct practice, they will be able to practice well. And without the teachers, it is possible. However, there's one condition: they have too much knowledge that they tend to conceptualize, intellectualize. So much so that because they reason out these things, trying to exercise the faculty of reason between many sides of the story, they tend to disbelieve in certain things, just like going on a journey without a map. Maybe one can go without a map, but it is better to go with a guide or reliable guide. It will not be as effective as going on a journey with a reliable guide. It is like going on a journey which has never been traveled before, and in transit one can waver and ambiguous which way to follow when it comes to a junction or many branches, many roads branching off into many paths. One can become deluded, and one may waver and be not able to accomplish one's journey. So also, if one is practicing under many teachers, thinking that this teacher is correct or that teacher is correct, and it becomes a potpourri of knowledge, or salad bowl, or whatever you call it, then you will not be able to undertake a substantial, the real correct practice. And like when you are reading many books written by many authors, many teachers, one get confused rather than becoming clear about the path. So when it's just like coming to a junction from which the many branches of path, many roads branch off. So you're wavering which way to take, and thinking this is correct or that is correct, or this may be wrong or that may be wrong, and not be able, unless one can confirm or verify with one's own practical experience, one will waver and become delayed in the transit, and this will not be beneficial for the practitioner. So if one is wavering about the things given, if one is doubtful, then one will not be able to realize or to accomplish one's journey. This is not commendable. Therefore, Vicikiccha is likened to a junction as given in the scriptures, this Vamika Sutta given by the Buddha. This is how the analogy was given in the text, that suppose a person, a rich person with a lot of wealth or money or belongings, is traveling on a journey, and he or she comes to a junction from which the two or more roads branching off in different directions, and he's wavering which way to choose, and cannot come to a confirmation. There he stops, wavers, until he was caught up by these robbers who followed him all along. And when the robbers caught up with him, they would rob him of all the belongings and even harm his life or her life. This analogy is given quite appropriately. Because when this traveler comes to a junction, he or she cannot come to a confirmation because he or she is wavering. So he or she stops there until the robbers caught him up and robbed him and even killed him or her. So also, as for the Vipassana practitioners, if the yogis are doubtful and wavering, then they will not be able to continue with their practice with confidence. Then what will happen? Just as the wealthy traveler was caught up by the robbers and lose his or her properties and even his or her life, so also the kilesa enemies will catch up with the yogis, and yogis will become a victim to the kilesa enemies, kilesa robbers, and may not be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Though the gross forms of kilesas may not attack or invade this yogi traveler, one will become at least deluded. Moha will arise at least. Although gross forms of kilesas do not arise in these yogis, moha is bound to arise. Delusion, confusion, bewilderment, lack of clarity of mind. Therefore, once one gets out of control, one's mind is bound to become impure. And since one is not aware of this, in most cases, impurities, akusala, are bound to arise. And one is also not feeling ashamed of performing deeds, and not being afraid of doing violent or wild and violent gross forms of gross deeds. It is like the moths going after or fluttering around the electric lights or fires at night time, thinking that they are gold, and only to meet death, only to be burned or heated. So, because they are not controlling themselves. So also, if one gets out of control, that is, one is not able to control one's mindfulness, then what will happen? One's naughty mind will be removed, will move up or will rise up from the object of observation instead of sticking on to the object of observation. This is audacha, distraction. So the minimum akusala, this is the minimum akusala which is bound to arise. That is distraction in the practitioner who is not being able to, who cannot control himself or herself. And as much as one lacks faith and confidence, there can arise this wrong or distorted, perverted views. Such perverted views, distorted views are bound to enter one's stream of consciousness. When one meets lustful objects or greed-inducing objects, one may become greedy, and if one meets hate-inducing or hateful objects, one will be overcome by hate, ill will, and aversion. Many things can happen. This is what is meant by becoming a victim to kilesa enemies. You are just overwhelmed by kilesa enemies. Based on kilesas, deeds will be performed. Some good, but in most cases bad, unwholesome. Mostly impurities will be performed, giving rise to impure, unwholesome consequences. So in this way, walking on the path of kilesas, one will not be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Unless one is mindful of every arising, at the moment of rising, with the method of the Satipatthana, the way of mindfulness, alert with alertness, diligence, and wakefulness, kilesas are bound to arise, kilesa weeds are bound to grow, and this is known as kilesa bhumi, the soil of defilements. Then this leads to this maxim: if unmindful, being unmindful, kilesas will enter. And that means one will become a victim to kilesa enemies. One will be persecuted, robbed, or killed by kilesa enemies. However, on the other hand, if one is mindful, by the way of Satipatthana, sustaining one's mindfulness with energetic aim, with diligence and aiming of every arising object in the body, then there is this maxim, the reverse of the first one. Being mindful, one will become purified of kilesas. There will be purity. One will become purified of kilesas. Kilesas will not enter. So then there will be no kilesa enemies. One will not be subject to the persecution by kilesa enemies, or not be overgrown by kilesa weeds, because one is protected. For doubtful person, skeptical person, uncertain person, they will not be able to do such things, such wholesome things. If they don't do it, they are bound to be invaded, overwhelmed, and persecuted, ill-treated by kilesas. If one is able to be mindful of every rising continuously without break, so as not to allow the skeptical doubt to rise in one's stream of consciousness continuously, then one will be protected. Then one's mind will become concentrated and insight will arise through the different stages of insight knowledge, various stages of insight knowledge, until one will come to accept and come to a definite resolution. So if one discovers the realities, the knowledge in oneself by noting the presently rising objects, one will come to accept. This is Peccaka Siddha, accomplishing or fulfilling through one's own experiential knowledge. This is accepting through one's own experience. The next step is to deduce, to exercise this faculty of deduction. Deduction, not deductive knowledge or inferential knowledge. Anumana Siddha or Anumana Jnana. That is, as much as these realities are discovered in the present, they must have arisen in the past, and will also arise in the same way in the future. And as much as these things arise in oneself, they are bound to arise. One can deduce that they are bound to arise in others, such as the discernment of mind and body, comprehension of cause and effect, and the comprehension of the universal characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfiedness, and selflessness. So once you are able to cultivate these two kinds of knowledge, namely Peccaka Jnana and Anumana Jnana, experiential knowledge and deductive knowledge, although one may not reach the clarity of one's wisdom or knowledge, one can accomplish through faith in the Buddha. This is known as Okappana Siddha, accomplishment through faith. Then one's doubts can be cleared and one will be able to understand things through faith. So we have these three things: experiential faith, experiential knowledge, in deductive knowledge and knowledge through faith. So in this way, as much as one cultivates knowledge, one is bound to develop faith and confidence. Saddha is bound to arise. And hence another niyama or another fixed law or maxim, vipassana maxim, in one who practices vipassana, saddha is bound to arise, or faith and confidence is bound to arise. Or one who practices vipassana is bound to develop faith and confidence or become convinced. So this is another maxim or fixed law of vipassana. In this way, with the practice of the way of mindfulness, cultivating knowledge, one will come to acceptance and resolution, and faith and confidence. Resolute, this is known as resolute faith. This resolute faith will arise leaps and bounds. However, if one is not able to cultivate vipassana knowledge or insight practice and vipassana knowledge, then if one is not able to come to acceptance or resolution, this vicikiccha, the trickster, the skeptical doubt, uncertainty, is bound to arise whenever occasion rises, at sometimes or at all times. Whenever it has a chance to arise, it will arise. And then it will obstruct or disrupt one's practice. Therefore, it is necessary to protect oneself, not to be overwhelmed or attacked by this vicikiccha, the trickster, by noting every arising mind and body objects and be aware of the nature of these objects. Then one will be able to develop one's. There will be no chance of vicikiccha to arise. And if it arises at all, one has got to be mindful and overcome this, so that one will not be tormented, attacked by this vicikiccha, and be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Hence, the vicikiccha is likened to a junction, as given in the text. Whoever cherishes this correct practice, the practice of the way of mindfulness, is bound, cherisher will practice the way of mindfulness respectfully, carefully and meticulously, sustaining one's attention on the arising objects to the satisfactory stage, is bound to come to the realities, understand the realities of mind and body, such as the discernment of mind and body, the cause-effect relationship and the comprehension of the universal characteristics of impermanence and so on, embarking on the progressive series of insight until one is able to go beyond the arising and passing away of the conditioned phenomena into the unconditioned, realizing the path and fruition of the knowledge of ones. Then one will come to a confirmation that this is the Dhamma. This Dhamma is the real doctrine teachings for liberation, and this is the Dhamma. Undertaking the correct practice, understanding the correct practice, undertaking the practice, and realizing the benefit of the practice with certainty, one will come to accept with one's own experiential knowledge, and one will come to a definite resolution. If the practice is correct and one is realizing the benefits by oneself, and this is also correct, then one will have faith and confidence in the teacher, in the individual who has given these teachings. This will be discovered through one's knowledge, through one's wisdom. And also, one will have faith and confidence in the existence of the individuals who have practiced this way of mindfulness and be able to overcome kilesas, impurities, on a small way, to some extent, or fully. And this way one will come to understand these three parts: the practice, the teacher, and the community of monks who have practiced in this way and be free from kilesas. So one will also come to understand that the mind and body, the realities of mind and body, by noting these ever arising psychophysical phenomena and discovering the old giving place to the new at every moment. There's no object which lasts beyond a single moment. One will come to accept these realities of mind and body which occurs in the present and in oneself. And one will come to deduce that as much as it occurs in oneself and in the present, this would have occurred in others, and this must have occurred in the past and also will happen in the future, so long as one continues to exist through the cause and effect process of mind and body. So this knowledge will arise. If one is able to cultivate such knowledge, then there will be no problem. However, if one is not able to cultivate such knowledge and practice in this way, vicikecha, skeptical doubt, this trickster, uncertainty is bound to arise. If one does not do anything, nothing will happen. There will be no faith and confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, in the triple and the three trainings of Sila Samadhi Panya, and in the past aggregate, present aggregate, or future aggregate, or existences, and paticca samuppada, dependent origination or interdependent origination. So one will become doubtful all the time, skeptical about all these 8 kinds of ideas or opinions. Nowadays also there can arise the skeptical doubt, uncertainty about these 4 locations or 4 places, 4 occasions. Firstly, the teacher who gives the teachings, and then the practice, the method of practice, secondly, and thirdly, and the individuals who have practiced and realized the Dhamma, and fourthly, one's own practice. So in these 4 locations, in these 4 things, one may become skeptical or doubtful. And this is also said as vicikecha, skeptical doubt. Therefore it is necessary to overcome this skeptical doubt and be able to practice smoothly, consistently, precisely, and be able to realize the path and fruition of the knowledge of the noble ones and see nibbana. This is the realizing the real peace and happiness. So towards this end, the teachers have been giving teachings in accordance with the expositions, Buddha's expositions, in accordance with the teacher's methods, and from both from the theoretical and practical aspects, to overcome this skeptical doubt. If you can reflect upon your own practice and analyze yourself, and you will find that you are able to cultivate yourself. You're bound to see the benefit in yourself. As much as you are able to analyze yourself, you're bound to see all these things. And also, vicikecha become less and less. It is quite sure that you are bound to be less. You be less and less overcome by vicikecha, skeptical doubt. But just imagine this support to kilesa, support to vipassana, namely sila, moral conduct. Just think about it. As moral conduct is to abstain from what should be abstained and to observe what should be observed. Not to do what you are not supposed to do, or to do what you are supposed to do, or not to speak what you are not supposed to speak. So if one practices or sustains the sila with faith and confidence, without any doubt, you are able to control your physical and verbal behaviors, so that they become blameless, pure, cultured, gentle, and affable. And this can be experienced this can be realized through your own experience. If one does not sustain it, one will not realize this kind of benefit, that is the purity of physical and verbal behaviors. One's behaviors, physical and verbal behaviors, will remain impure as ever, as coarse, gross, and despicable as ever. However, if one practices, one is bound to purify one's physical and verbal behaviors. This is the benefit of the practice. So with one's own practice, one will come to have faith and confidence in one's practice. One will become convinced. In this way, one will be free from the skeptical doubt. Furthermore, if one is able to sustain one's mindfulness on the ever-arising object, noting rising and falling as the main object and other objects as they arise, you are bound to become concentrated. Your mind is bound to become concentrated, and even if it's for 1 minute, at the rate of 1 mindfulness per second, you can just imagine how much your mind will be concentrated. In this way, your mind is said to be fortified, energized fully, and not be invaded or overcome by kilesas. Will not be tormented by kilesas. And as you are noting energetically these objects, there is this driving power to direct your noting mind towards the object observation. You are making effort every time. So you will be free from this laziness, and kilesas will not be accepted. So with the exertion of energy, kilesas are not accepted, and by not being accepted, they are said to be overcome. So once your noting mind and objects are concurrent, precise, you are bound to have experience the advantages of the practice, beginning with piti, rapturous feeling. And as much as you sustain your mindfulness, the sati is bound to arise, and sati has the power of not allowing kilesas to enter your stream of consciousness. It tends to hinder or blocks the entry of kilesas into your stream of consciousness. And as the mind is concentrated as a result of sustaining mindfulness, there will be no dispersion of the mind, and you'll be free from the obsessive kinds of defilements. In this way, you are said to be purifying your mind, and you're bound to get the benefit of the gentleness and cultivation and of the mind, so that it becomes affable and lovable. And in the meantime, if you are able to cultivate knowledge, then especially at the stage of, if you reach the stage of Sankharupekha Jnana, that is the knowledge of the contemplation of the formations, of the equanimity towards all formations, even if you are confronted with good and bad things, conditions in life, you will be equipoised. Neither will you be elated about desirable objects, nor be dejected about undesirable objects. You become balanced, and this is a commendable state of mind. So this such state of mind, equipoise, a balanced state, cannot be realized through worldly means, however much you try to practice. So as much as you are able to cultivate such things, benefits, you are bound to come to acceptance and resolution. And the teachers giving, Sayadaw is giving this Dhamma talk, so as you can come to acceptance stage by stage, and be free from skeptical doubt in accordance with the Buddha's exposition and the method given to him by the teachers. If one is being mindful of every arising in all the postures or manners during the day, with the practice with the method of Satipatthana, you are bound to become pure, blameless, and considering this, coming to a resolution, come to a definite resolution and acceptance that this method leads to purification of the mind. It is kusala. Now, of course, nobody is forcing you to believe this or to come to such a resolution. You are doing it through your own experience. And it is necessary also to be free from doubts as to the correctness of kusala or akusala, about the practice, or whether this practice is wholesome or not wholesome. So one is necessary to be free of uncertainty about the correctness of the practice, about the wholesomeness of the practice. If one is able to be mindful at all postures, as already mentioned, in all manners, then one is bound to comprehend the characteristics, as already mentioned previously, such as the discernment of mind and body, all the realities of mind and body, the cause effect process, and all these are stages of knowledge. All these are kinds of knowledge. And moreover, if one is able to sustain one's mindfulness, sati, then, as has been said, that one will be free from these hindrances, nivaranas, to progress. And as much as one is free from hindrances and undermining of subversive elements, one's mind is bound to become serene and bright. And this is a serene kind of, this leads to serene kind of faith. So at this moment, can there be any greed or hatred? There cannot be. There can only arise wholesome mental states, wholesome roots such as alobha, non-greed, adosa, non-hatred. All these are mental powers, wholesome mental powers, blameless mental powers, which arise every time you are mindful. If you are mindful of every arising, and with the practice of the way of mindfulness, Satipatthana, you are bound to cultivate vipassana kusala. If you are not mindful, you will not cultivate any vipassana kusala. Then the result is doubts and uncertainties will arise. So it is necessary to be able to clear our doubts. One is not able to practice in this manner, this way of mindfulness, and cultivate knowledge, seeing the realities of mind and body, then one can come to a conclusion that one is not cultivating or practicing vipassana kusala. This skeptical doubt arises, then one is not able to materialize or cultivate or practice vipassana, then one will not be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Hence the name Niyanavarana to Vicikiccha, that is obstacle to liberation. Then if one is doubtful about these things, this can also become obstacle to the resolution, the knowledge of resolution. That these are supports to vipassana also is Niyanavarana, obstacle to liberation. Yeah. The skeptical of Vicikiccha is a dangerous thing, and it is necessary not to accept this. This happens mostly in those people who are prone to conceptualizing, intellectualizing, thinking about the pros and cons, and every time this arises, one has got to note and overcome. And there are events which are beyond one's realm of knowledge. If one is criticizing or having skeptical doubt about these things which are beyond one's knowledge, one's realm of knowledge, then one will be wasting time and will not be able to accomplish anything. Therefore, every time it arises, it needs to be noted and overcome. And if criticism and doubts arise also, they should be noted and overcome. Since if one is doubtful, one will not be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Hence, it is necessary to be careful of this vicikiccha, skeptical doubt. The fifth pair of niyana and avarana. It's already past 1 hour, and Sayadaw wishes that may you all be able to come to a resolution or understand that this practice of vipassana to purify oneself is kusala. They are all kusala, all wholesome things. And to be able to come to a real resolution and definition, and be able to strive to be free from skeptical doubt, and thus be able to be free from the realm of suffering. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.